go. Get it cracking. Let's go. Yeah. Working. Going all the way. Come on, Chrisean. We outside, man.
Merry Christmas.
Get to it. Merry Christmas. Get to it, man. Ain't no excuses out here. Working time. Let's go. Man, keep going, man. Get there.
Christmas morning was supposed to be peaceful. Pajamas, vibes, and a quiet moment away from the chaos. Instead, the internet woke up like it had caffeine audacity and absolutely nothing better to do than police Rock's motherhood. One clip, one moment, one snapshot of real life, and suddenly everybody online became a certified parenting expert, handing out judgments like free candy canes. People who can't commit to a New Year's resolution were questioning how a mother spends Christmas with her child. Make it make sense. The comments were ruthless. The takes were dramatic. And the energy real. I've never met you, but let me tell you how to live vibes. And that's when Chrisean snapped back. Not with a whisper, not with a PR apology, but with raw emotion, sharp words, and that signature I said what I said energy that makes timelines freeze. This wasn't just a clapback. This was a holiday warning shot. A reminder that motherhood doesn't come with a script. And not everyone celebrates Christmas like a Pinterest board. The internet tried to turn her into a villain. Instead, Chrisean turned Christmas into a battlefield. And trust me, this made the petitions look boring. And once she spoke, there was no logging out after that. By the time most people were pouring their second cup of Christmas morning coffee, the internet had already decided Chrissy and Rock had committed the ultimate sin. Not a crime, not a scandal, no leaked texts or secret tapes, just the audacity to live her life out loud while being a mother. One moment. That's all it took. A short clip, a raw snapshot, a piece of real life that wasn't wrapped in matching pajamas, studio lighting, or fake influencer joy. And suddenly, social media flipped the switch from holiday cheer to digital witch hunt. That the same platforms that scream the authentic every other day immediately punished her for being exactly that. Comments came in hot, fast, and uninvited. Why is she doing that on Christmas? Where's the structure? Is that really what a mother should be doing? People who learned parenting exclusively from TikTok clips and half-read threads were suddenly delivering verdicts like they'd been summoned to family court. It was concern dressed up as judgment, wrapped in fake sympathy, and seasoned with just enough moral superiority to feel righteous. And here's the thing they didn't want to admit. They weren't reacting to danger. They weren't reacting to neglect. They were reacting to discomfort. Chrisean doesn't parent quietly. She doesn't sanitize her life for public approval. She doesn't pretend mother had erased her personality, her emotions, or her chaos. And that alone was enough to trigger people who believe mothers are supposed to shrink, soften, and disappear the moment a baby enters the room. The clip itself wasn't dramatic. The reaction was what should have been just another holiday post turned into a full-blown narrative. Screenshots traveled faster than facts. Clips were reposted without context. Commentary channels smelled blood and ran with it. Suddenly, the internet wasn't asking questions. It was writing conclusions. And every conclusion somehow said the same thing. She's doing it wrong. No grace, no benefit of the doubt, just judgment served cold, like leftover opinions nobody asked for. What made it worse was the timing. Christmas, a day people love to weaponize for optics. A holiday where everyone pretends their family isn't dysfunctional, their house isn't loud, and their life isn't messy. A day built on curated happiness and selective memory. Chrissy shattered that illusion. She showed reality, and the internet punished her for not playing along. Then came the fake concern wave. I'm not hating, but I just care about the child. This isn't about her. It's about the baby. The oldest trick in the digital book. Start with I'm worried so nobody can call you cruel. But the cruelty was obvious. The tone was accusatory. The energy was condescending. It wasn't about care. It was about control. And control is something the internet has always wanted over Chrisean. She's never been easy to label. Never clean enough for the perfect mom box. Never quiet enough for the respectable woman's standard. Never obedient enough to fit into the narrative people want to project onto her. So instead of letting her exist as a complex human being, they tried to turn her into a cautionary tale. And that's when the pressure started to crack. At first, Chrisean stayed quiet. No immediate response, no rushed explanation, but silence doesn't stop speculation. It feeds it. The longer she waited, the louder the takes became. People started dissecting her past, stacking old controversies on top of the new one, like evidence in a case nobody asked to be tried. Old clips resurfaced. Old headlines were recycled. Suddenly, Christmas wasn't about the present. It was about rewriting her entire story, and the internet loved every second of it because there's something addictive about tearing down a woman who refuses to behave the way people expect her to, especially when she's loud, emotional, and unapologetically imperfect. Behind the scenes, though, something else was happening. Chrisean wasn't just reading comments. She was feeling them. Every judgment hit harder because it wasn't about her music, her relationships, or her past mistakes. This time they came for the one thing that mattered more than anything else, her child. And that's where the line was crossed. You can clown her. You can criticize her choices. You can meme her lifestyle. But the moment people started questioning her love, her intent, and her role as a mother, the tone shifted. This wasn't internet noise anymore. This was personal. The pressure built like steam in a locked room. Each comment added another layer. Each repost sharpened the narrative, and the louder the crowd got, the clearer it became. They weren't listening, and they didn't want to. They had already decided who she was. By the time Chrisean finally spoke, it wasn't a calculated response. It wasn't polished. It wasn't softened for public approval. It was raw. Her voice carried frustration, exhaustion, and something deeper. The kind of emotion that comes from being judged by strangers who don't know your nights, your sacrifices, or your fears. She didn't apologize for existing. She didn't beg for understanding that she pushed back. And that's when the scandal truly ignited. Because the internet can forgive mistakes. What it can't forgive is resistance. The moment Chrisean refused to bow her head, the situation stopped being about Christmas and started becoming something much bigger. A battle over who gets to define motherhood, who gets grace, and who gets dragged for refusing to fit the mold. And just like that, what started as a single holiday clip turned into a cultural standoff with Chrisean standing in the middle, unfiltered, unprotected, and unapologetically loud. And trust this, it was only getting started. Once Chrisean spoke up, the situation didn't calm down. It exploded. Her response hit timelines like a lit match tossed into gasoline. Within minutes, clips were chopped. Captions were rewritten. And suddenly, everyone claimed they knew exactly what she meant, even when they clearly didn't. The internet wasn't listening anymore. It was performing. Odd.me pages clocked in early and worked overtime. Holiday photos were turned into punchlines. Screenshots were slapped with sarcastic captions, reaction gifs, and sound effects that made the situation look like a comedy sketch instead of a real woman defending her motherhood. Nothing spreads faster online than outrage, mixed with humor and the hot takes. Absolutely reckless. Some people acted like she committed a felony instead of celebrating Christmas her own way. Others spoke with fake concerns who think you could cut it with a knife. It was less we care, and more let us judge lowly while pretending we're saints. Then came the celebrity-adjacent commentary, not direct call-outs. Oh no, that would be too honest. Instead, vague posts started popping up. You know, the ones parents need to be more mindful. Kids deserve stability. Not everything needs to be posted. Nobody said her name. Everybody knew exactly who they were talking about. It turned into a digital game of subtweets and side eyes where people tried to sound mature while still cashing in on the drama. The irony. Half the people preaching privacy were reacting publicly for engagement. Moral high ground. Sponsored by likes and weights. The comparisons got wild. People started stacking Chrisean against imaginary versions of perfect moms that only exist on curated feeds. She was measured against influencers with nannies, filters, and carefully edited lies like that was ever a fair fight. It was reality versus performance. And reality doesn't photograph well. And just when you thought the takes couldn't get worse, the internet did what it does best. It escalated that old clips resurfaced like zombies. Past mistakes were dragged back into the conversation. Even when they had nothing to do with Christmas or parenting, it became less about the moment and more about proving a narrative people had already decided was true. People had already decided was true. Every timeline looked the same. Judgment stacked on judgment. Opinions echoed until they sounded like facts. But something unexpected happened. Not everyone was against her. A counterweave started building quietly at first. Mothers stepped in. Women who understood that parenting doesn't come with a pause button or a rule book. People who recognized that being imperfect doesn't mean being unloving. They pointed out the obvious. That one clip doesn't define a parent. That kids don't need perfection. They need presence. That the internet loves to criticize situations it would crumble under in real life. Those voices didn't go viral as fast, but they were loud enough to matter. And that's when the divide became clear. This wasn't just about Chrisean anymore. It was about what people expect from women once they become mothers. How they're supposed to move quieter, smile softer, and disappear behind the title. Chrissy refused to do that. She doubled down, not with apologies, but with conviction. Her energy said, "I know my child. I know my life, and strangers don't get a vote." That confidence alone rattled people who expected her to fold. The memes kept coming. The outrage kept recycling, but so did the support. Suddenly, the narrative wasn't as one-sided as people wanted it to be. The internet thrives on agreement. And when it doesn't get it, things get messy. Timelines became battlegrounds. Comment sections turned into debates. And every post felt like a cliffhanger. Even neutral observers got dragged into picking sides. If you didn't condemn her loudly enough, people assumed you supported bad parenting. If you defended her, you were accused of excusing chaos. There was no middle ground, only extremes. And that's when the scandal officially outgrew Christmas. It became a culture clash. A fight over who gets grace and who gets dragged. Who gets to be human and who gets punished for it. Chrisean didn't clean up her image. She didn't soften her tone. She stood exactly where she was and let the noise swirl around her. And for the internet, that was infuriating because nothing frustrates critics more than someone who refuses to be embarrassed. Someone who doesn't retreat. Someone who doesn't beg. By the end of it, Christmas was over, but the drama was very much alive. The outrage machine kept spinning, fueled by engagement, ego, and everyone's favorite holiday tradition, judging someone else to feel better about themselves. And as the dust started to settle, one thing became clear. This wasn't just another viral moment. This was a turning point, and the consequences, they were just beginning. When the noise finally slowed down, it didn't fade quietly. It lingered. Like smoke after fireworks, the kind that reminds you something big just went down. Even if the celebration is technically over, Chrisean didn't walk away from this moment untouched. Nobody ever does when the internet decides to turn their life into a live debate. But what surprised people wasn't that she survived the backlash. It was how she survived it. She didn't disappear. She didn't issue a carefully worded statement approved by a publicist who charges per syllable. She didn't suddenly transform into the version of motherhood the internet demands. She stayed exactly who she was. And that alone rewrote the narrative. The same people who were loud during the peak of outrage started going quiet once the clicks slowed down. The hot takes dried up. The memes stopped hitting as hard because outrage is powerful, but it has a short attention span. What didn't feed was the conversation underneath it. People started reflecting instead of reacting. Parents spoke openly about how exhausting it is to be judged for every choice. Women admitted they felt pressure to perform motherhood instead of live it. Even critics quietly shifted their tone, replacing accusations with awkward silence. The scandal forced something uncomfortable into the open. The internet doesn't actually care about parenting. It cares about optics. And Chrisean exposed that without trying to, her reputation didn't collapse like people predicted. If anything, it hardened that she became less of a caricature and more of a mirror. People saw their own expectations reflected back at them and didn't like what they found. Because it's easier to judge someone else than admit the standards are unrealistic. Relationships around her shifted to some people distanced themselves afraid of being pulled into controversy. Others leaned closer recognizing authenticity when they saw it. That's what public storms do. They don't just reveal public opinion, they reveal private loyalties. And Chrisean. She noticed that she stopped explaining herself to people who had already decided they wouldn't understand. Her tone changed, not softer, but sharper, more intentional, less reactive. That evolution didn't go unnoticed. The audience split didn't heal. He clarified. Those who stayed became latter supporters. Those who left were replaced by people who appreciated honesty over polished at the irony. The very moment meant to discredit her as a mother ended up strengthening her identity as one. Not because she was perfect, but because she was present. She showed something the internet hates to admit. That love doesn't always look clean, calm, or camera-ready. Sometimes it looks chaotic. Sometimes it looks loud. Sometimes it looks like defending yourself when strangers cross a line they were never invited to approach. The long-term impact reached beyond her name. Other creators started pulling back from oversharing. Some doubled down, posting messier, more real moments in quiet defiance. The algorithm didn't change, but the awareness did. People realized how quickly a moment can be twisted, how easily context can be stripped away, how fast judgment replaces understanding when engagement is the reward. And yet, for all the think pieces and digital debates, one truth stood tall. Chrisean didn't lose her voice. She didn't lose her child. She didn't lose herself. She lost patience for performative concern and gained clarity. The internet moved on like it always does. Another scandal replaced hers. Another name trended. Another outrage cycle spun up. But this one left a residue because it wasn't about a crime or a rumor. It was about motherhood. And that's personal. People don't forget the moments that challenge their beliefs. They just stop talking about them publicly but privately. They linger. Chrisean and became a reference point. A name brought up in conversations about unfair standards and selective outrage. A reminder that public figures are still human even when the internet tries to flatten them into content. And the wisest part, she never asked to be a symbol. She just refused to be silenced. As the dust settled, one thing was undeniable. This wasn't the end of her story. It wasn't even a detour. It was a chapter that sharpened her edge, clarified her stance, and made it clear she's not here to be digestible. She's here to be real. She's here to be real. And if Christmas taught the internet anything this year, it's this. You can question her. You can criticize her. You can try to define her, but you can't control her. And who have her scandal comes next, because let's be honest, there's always a next one. The internet will remember this moment not as the time she broke, but as the time she stood her ground. And that's the kind of ending that doesn't actually end at all. And now listen, if this whole situation didn't make you pause, rewind, and say, yeah, this is messy, then you weren't really watching, because this wasn't just another viral clip, this was a full-blown reminder that the internet loves to judge first. Think never, and move on fast once the damage is done. So let me ask you, was Chrissy defending herself, or did the internet cross a line it never had permission to step over? Drop your take in the comments, because this debate is way bigger than one Christmas moment. And don't tiptoe in there either. Say it with your chest. Agree, disagree, argue respectfully, or don't. This comment section stays undefeated. If this breakdown had you locked in, smash that like button like it owes you money and keeps dodging your calls. It tells the algorithm we're not here for watered-down takes or fake outrage. We're here for the real breakdowns. They don't want trending. And you're new here. Don't act shy. Hit subscribe and turn those notifications on, because scandals don't wait, and neither do we. 1 minute it's a Christmas clip. The next is a full internet meltdown with receipts, reactions, and reputations on the line. This channel doesn't miss moments. We catch them, dissect them, and serve them unfiltered. No PR spin, no sugarcoating, just chaos, context, and commentary. So stay tapped in, stay loud, stay curious. Because if you think this was the last time the internet tried to play judge, jury, and executioner, you clearly haven't been paying attention. Welcome to Vibe Crave, where the drama never sleeps. The takes stay spicy, and the next scandal is already loading. Thing.